Tonight, a heartbroken mum and her tribute to her son, one of 5 children killed in the Jumping Castle tragedy. A memorial at the Tasmanian primary school grows by the hour. Also, AFL superstar Dustin Martin mourns the shock death of his father. Long wait times and delays in results after record COVID testing numbers as thousands fill the shops a week out from Christmas. Dozens of drunk and drug drivers busted. Exclusive details on night 1 of a Christmas police blitz. And a Victorian man at the centre of a wild brawl before lightning strikes at the Adelaide Ashes.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Blake Johnson starts now.
Good evening. The mother of one of the children killed in the Jumping Castle tragedy has returned to the school to thank people who tried to save her son. A shrine with flowers and teddy bears is still growing tonight. The Prime Minister moved to tears as he visited Devonport.
Georgina Gardam brought her son Zane's Year 6 shirt and gaming controller to the makeshift memorial. Zane died in the Jumping Castle in his last day of primary school.
I just needed to see what everyone had done and I appreciate it so much, but nothing brings my baby home.
She's set up her own memorial at home.
I have all these Christmas presents and we've opened some of them and just sat them up for him. And
the Prime Minister and Mrs Morrison also clearly moved as they saw the thousands of floral tributes and stuffed toys here. For several minutes, they reflected in silence. Their family message read, "Our hearts break for the families and for the community left behind."
Australia is one with them, and we grieve with them and we mourn with them.
Mr Morrison announced $800,000 to boost mental health services here at the school, for first responders, for the community in general.
We know support won't just be needed in the next few weeks. It'll be needed for many, many, many months.
The operator of the Jumping Castle, named in media reports as Tas Zorb, has deleted its website. The company has run out of this Launceston home, now deserted. Police refuse to answer any questions on the investigation. The Tasmanian government has temporarily banned jumping castles in state schools, and the Education Minister made this promise.
I can assure families that I will do everything in my power to make sure that we understand the circumstances here.
Clutching his grandson's favourite pillow, Zane Mellor's grandfather Richard said his family was forgiving.
I want to tell the fella that was concerned with the Jumping Castle, he went there in good faith. We understand his grief, he must be feeling bad.
This vast sea of tributes now runs longer than 50 metres. The local council will talk to the school about eventually incorporating some of these items into a permanent memorial. Adding to community pain, 3 children remain in hospital in a critical condition. The GoFundMe page for the families has now raised well over $1 million.
I think it just proves how shaken up everyone is and how tight-knit of a community we are and how much it truly has affected people.
The money will be managed by a newly created government fund for the families. Such support is comforting.
It's hard to see the pain laid out here, but also joy in the fact that the people have come with respect in their hearts. It's fantastic.
In Devonport, Nick McCallum, 7 News.
Richmond superstar Dustin Martin is mourning the sudden death of his father Shane. Tom Brown's at Punt Road. Tom, the Tigers are rallying around Dusty tonight.
Blake, this is an enormous blow to Dustin Martin, who's enormously close to his father Shane. New Zealand police have confirmed to us in a statement this afternoon to 7 News that there were no suspicious circumstances regarding this matter. Richmond and his manager not commenting extensively today at Dustin's request. The Tigers superstar trained yesterday before being struck down by grief.
I've always been real close with Dad.
Dustin left school aged 15 to drive forklifts at his dad's trucking business in Sydney. But in 2016, Shane was deported to New Zealand.
Easily the most hardest thing that I've had to go through.
I'm doing time for no crime.
Shane was a member of the Outlaw Rebels motorcycle gang for 13 years, becoming a chapter president.
Enjoy riding Harleys, that's what we do. Yeah, we just ride around, hang out.
Shane fought extradition but didn't pass the character test to re-enter Australia.
I have information that's not publicly available. It's provided by the intelligence agencies.
Well, where is it? Because there is none.
Shane convinced Martin to re-sign with Richmond. It would prove a sliding doors moment. Dustin pledging he'd swap his Brownlow.
All the medals for sure. Yeah, you can't put an item or anything on family.
The midfielder flew to visit whenever he could, last visiting in April.
Cheers, boys. Love yous. Love ya.
Recent visits impossible, compounding the pain of Martin's debilitating kidney injury. Tonight, Dustin left to grieve with his brothers Bronson and Tyson.
I've always been there for my kids from day dot. Never let them down once.
Tom Brown, 7 News.
Victoria's had another record high day of COVID testing as New South Wales hits another new high for case numbers. And tonight, thousands face a new hurdle in the race to get booster shots before Christmas.
As it warmed up inside the old Melton Bunnings, what's now a vaccination hub was forced to shut down this morning. Anything over 30 degrees, too much for vaccines to stay viable.
It's going to be hot for a while now, so is that going to keep happening?
Next week, Western Health will build air-conditioned tents inside the shed. Today, a week from Christmas Day, the only item on the shopping list for many was a COVID test. Almost 90,000 done yesterday, Victoria's highest ever. At some testing hubs, there's confusion with opening hours. The department website showing the Malvern East testing site was closed today. In fact, it was open. Others were temporarily closed today because of big crowds. With more than 13,000 active cases and families desperate to gather next weekend, the state government knows Victorians are nervous.
I think we're all a bit anxious, we're all feeling a bit hyper-vigilant.
1,504 new cases were announced today, none confirmed as Omicron. 7 more deaths and now almost 30,000 active primary close contacts in isolation. There's a new cluster linked to a South Gippsland school camp. 47 students infected. In New South Wales, another new high. 2,482 additional cases detected, well above ours. But despite that, their hospital and intensive care patient load is lower than Victoria's, and they've eased mask rules.
Every epidemiologist will tell you we should be wearing masks.
A newly released report to Parliament by Chief Health Officer Brett Sutton reveals he believes our hospitalisations have peaked, but he says the threat to Victorians and our healthcare system is serious and ongoing.
I'm not going to alarm people on case numbers. What matters is hospitalisations, ICU, people on ventilators and severe illness.
Paul Dowsley, 7 News.
Police are fuming after day one of their Christmas roads crackdown. Cassie Zervos has exclusive details. Cassie, more than 100 drivers have had their licences suspended.
Well, Blake, in just 24 hours, police have conducted 11,000 drug and alcohol tests, just like this set up here in Keilor tonight. They've been left appalled at the blatant disregard to safety on our roads. And although no lives have been lost, our top road cop says the behaviour is just unacceptable.
No matter what time of the day or night, police are out to nab as many motorists as possible who are blatantly breaking the law. Just 24 hours after police launched the annual Christmas Roads Blitz, hundreds have been caught putting their lives and others at risk. So far, 300 drivers have been nabbed speeding. 50 of those were 25 kilometres over the speed limit. 115 drivers were caught with drugs or excessive alcohol in their system. Police pulled over 63 motorists who were either disqualified from driving or had no licence at all. More than 70 were on their mobile phones and 30 people were not wearing seatbelts, leaving the Assistant Commissioner in disbelief. Glenn Weir telling 7 News he's extremely disappointed with the cavalier nature of driving on day one of the operation, describing it as completely unacceptable.
Drugs and alcohol testing has ramped right back up after being dramatically reduced during the pandemic for safety reasons. And with a week to go until Christmas, motorists can expect to see a heavy police presence on our roads. Blake.
Cassie Zervos in Keilor. A week out from Christmas, the rush is on at our major shopping centres. Hope Wilson is at High Point tonight, and Hope, it's looking a little busy there tonight.
In fact, Blake, this is expected to be High Point's busiest week of the year. So if you've already missed the Australia Post deadline, be prepared for some big crowds. And they've already started with a scramble for a car park and queues outside some stores. Now, the trading hours here have been extended. It's 10 p.m. today, and tomorrow they'll extend even further in the few days before Christmas. At Chadston, they're open until midnight from Monday through until Thursday. Now, Victorian shops are open to vaccinated and unvaccinated people, but masks are still mandatory. And after a tough 2 years, we're expected to spend in record numbers, and that trend is expected to spill over into a Boxing Day frenzy.
The Christmas COVID shopping spree.
Merry Christmas!
Shoppers spending up a week out from Santa's big day.
Yes, too much. Yeah.
And we thought, you know what, let's give back to the kids a little bit more.
It's estimated more than $500 will be spent by shoppers on loved ones over the next week alone.
It's been a long old haul, and suddenly it's like, yay, Christmas. Let's do this.
The top gift ideas on Santa's list: clothing, the most popular, followed by games and toys. The ever-easy gift card, food and treats next, and rounding out the list, technology. Businesses enjoying the cash injection after a tough 2 years.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
There's definitely a focus at the moment on buying things for loved ones for Christmas. You can see that spirit in everyone.
Consumers urged to shop local, with a growing number willing to pay more for Aussie-made.
Small businesses can make up to 50% of their revenue in the festive season. With the difficulty they've had over the last 2 years, that's exactly what they need.
Crowds like this are expected to continue past Christmas Day, with the Boxing Day sales expected to be the biggest for some time. Australians now likely to tip in to some of the $240 billion in household savings accumulated this year.
A record $21 billion is forecast to be spent in the post-Christmas period, up more than 2% on last year and a rise of over 12% on pre-pandemic levels. Businesses and shoppers cautious about the rising COVID case numbers, but not yet concerned.
Customers return back to the shops in droves. They're shopping locally and they're shopping safely, which we're really pleased to see.
Spending up after a weary lockdown. Liam Tapper, 7 News.
Protests have caused more Saturday disruption in the city. The demonstrators rallied at several city locations for up to 4 hours, declaring they wanted to reclaim the Dominion. Police say there were no arrests. Now to London, where the UK's COVID surge is affecting bars and pubs in their busiest week of the year, despite locals vowing to have a normal Christmas. Around 1 in 60 people now has the virus in England, with many working from home to avoid Christmas Day in isolation.
The Christmas lights are on, the market's open, and there's a festive feeling in the brisk London air, as well as a growing chorus of COVID fatigue.
If you had to just drop me here, I wouldn't have guessed that this is a pandemic scenario.
Look, walking around here right now, this looks no different to me to what it does any other Christmas.
It's just very busy everywhere, it's just chaotic, to be fair.
Yeah, it doesn't seem a lot has changed, even though the cases are going up.
Going up in record numbers. Another 93,000 cases recorded in the UK in the last 24 hours. Statistics show that 1 in 60 people have COVID in England, but those figures don't include the case surge from the last 7 days.
Omicron is a very serious threat to us now. We are seeing a considerable wave coming through.
Although there's no lockdown in London, many Britons are working from home and staying away from crowds. They don't want to risk catching the virus and being in isolation for Christmas.
People should decide what they want to do. It's a matter for their personal choice. We're not closing things down, but we do think people need to be cautious.
Not under government instruction, but pubs and clubs forced to close because of cancellations.
Lots of lights and were going on and off throughout the entire of last year, and it kind of feels like that's coming back again now, and I can feel the anxious.
A lockdown by stealth the week before Christmas. In London, Tegan Dolling, 7 News.
Australian cricket captain Pat Cummins is back in Sydney tonight after being granted an exemption to leave quarantine in South Australia. Theo Doropoulos has the details. Theo, he flew out on a private jet this afternoon.
He did, Blake. The skipper was facing 7 days isolation after dining with an infected friend here in Adelaide on Wednesday night, but now that's been cut short. Now, just as play was kicking off here at Adelaide Oval this afternoon, a very masked-up captain boarded a private 5-seat jet and flew home to Sydney to be with his family. There, he won't be required to isolate unless New South Wales Health upgrades the restaurant he was at to a place of high concern. As it stands, Cummins will be allowed to train and prepare for next week's Boxing Day test. He will rejoin his teammates in Melbourne early next week, and the Australian cricket team and public hope that maybe in the lead up to that one, he just sticks to takeaway. Blake.
All right, Theo, thanks for that. A Victorian man has been arrested and charged after a wild brawl on Adelaide Oval's famous Grass Hill. The confrontation unfolded as play continued last night.
Piled on after an attempt to spear tackle police.
He's going to run, he's going to run, he's going to run.
But he doesn't get far.
Definitely the drunk tank now.
The spectator finally apprehended, but not before being evicted from the ground multiple times for rowdy behaviour. Witnesses say he kept sneaking back each time in a different disguise. Angered by their mate's arrest, another wave of violence erupts. This time an officer is forced to the ground, while two men are frog marched away. Mates David, Richard and Doug weren't shocked by the heat on the hill, but were surprised by how quickly it spiralled out of control.
Just that one little pocket, so yeah, there's always one.
It also added to the theatre of the day, so not complaining.
Cricket Australia says it has a zero-tolerance approach to violence of any kind, but it's not getting involved. Instead, it's leaving it to the Adelaide Stadium Authority to deal with any troublemakers.
A 30-year-old Victorian man has so far been the only one formally charged. He's accused of disorderly behaviour and assaulting police, but there are yet to be any further repercussions. On the whole, the Ashes crowd has been praised for being well behaved, but not everyone ending the day with their heads held high. Hayden Nelson, 7 News.
Neil Daniher has been inducted into Melbourne's Hall of Fame in an emotional moment at the Premier's Best and Fairest Count.
I'm so very proud of you. I could not be more honoured to formally induct Neil Daniher into the Melbourne Football Club.
Clayton Oliver took out the Bluey Truscott Trophy, a high honour in a premiership year. And Laura Spurway, the Ashes shortly, but still with footy, a Bulldog star is taking time away from the club.
That's right, Blake. Bailey Smith has been granted leave for personal reasons. The 21-year-old has quickly attracted more than 350,000 followers on Instagram. And earlier this year spoke about his struggles with mental health. Full details coming up in sport. Also, the exclusive pictures of the Saints team bonding session. And the Aussies had England ducking for cover on day 3 in Adelaide, but skipper Joe Root dug his heels in with a half-century. And Blake, Tiger Woods, well, he was upstaged by his 12-year-old son in his return to the golf course.
All right.
We'll have it soon.
See you soon, Laura. Thank you. It is the last auction Saturday of the year and the real estate market's going out with a bang. The details are next on 7 News. Also, a leading surgeon raises the alarm over our kids getting seriously sunburned. A breakthrough in a dramatic Geelong shooting, and later the miracle drug set to help more than 100,000 Australians living with failing hearts. A man has been charged over last weekend's dramatic shooting in Geelong. Police raided a Geelong West house, arresting a 27-year-old. He faces multiple charges in court on Monday, including firearm offences, aggravated burglary and intentionally causing serious harm. A 40-year-old man is still in hospital after being shot in his upper and lower body last weekend outside of Bell Park property. Witnesses desperately helped save the man before he was taken to hospital. A driver hurt in a crash at Maribyrnong now has serious charges to add to his pain. A 5-year-old girl remains in hospital in a critical but stable condition following Tuesday's collision. The woman who'd been driving the child in a BMW has been released from hospital. So too the Toyota driver who crashed into them, who'd been under police guard during his recovery. The 26-year-old from Flemington has now been interviewed by police and charged with dangerous driving, among other offences. Auctioneers are celebrating a Christmas property rush with a record-breaking end-of-year weekend. Today's clearance rate is 76% and tomorrow is the last day of auctions until late January.
A weekend and month set for the history books.
We are selling
selling and sold to you. Congratulations.
2,400 homes to auction, 500 more than last weekend and 1,500 more than this time last year.
We might break the record of 2017 for the most number of December auctions in history.
It was the last weekend to snap up a property before the new year, and this Cheltenham home was just one of the many sold.
Looking forward to a big break, and then the market doesn't reopen again until after Australia Day.
It sold for $1.38 million, $100,000 over the reserve price.
Get a nice couple in there and they'll appreciate the garden for a few more years, hopefully.
Homeowners who had been reluctant to sell during lockdown now want to get rid of them before Christmas.
I was thinking about selling mine, so I've come here to have a look at the markets.
No doubt spring and early summer is definitely a busy time of year. We don't usually see this many sales close to Christmas.
But there's little interest in inner city apartments with no overseas buyers or international students. Properties in Mount Waverley, Craigieburn and Reservoir have been the most popular for buyers, but the rate of growth seen this year is predicted to slow in 2022.
I don't think there's any need for panic. I think there'll be plenty of stock next year. I think there'll be great buying opportunities.
Kathleen O'Connor, 7 News.
Investigators have spoken to 2 men over a brawl on a metro train late yesterday afternoon. While transit police are investigating an alleged assault, they say both parties requested no further involvement from authorities. A world-leading surgeon is concerned about the increasing number of children ending up in hospital with burns, but the damage to their delicate skin is not because of hot water or flames. Severe sunburn is becoming more common, especially at this time of year.
Lucas Didman made an easy mistake. His skin exposed to the sun for hours. The 12-year-old did put sunscreen on, but didn't reapply.
I thought I was going to die for a second.
Lucas ended up in the burns unit at Perth Children's Hospital.
They actually had to pop all the blisters. They had to basically remove all the dead skin. They had to cut everything away back to raw and basically expose everything so that new skin could form after that.
One of the country's leading burn specialists has noticed a concerning new summer trend in her home state.
This is serious.
More kids ending up in hospital because of severe sunburn.
The kids we see are the small babies popped under a tree and they think it's the right place to be. Well, actually, you need better shade than that. And the other is the kid who's jumping in and out of the pool for hours and hours and hours, having a great time.
One of the biggest misconceptions is that sun damage is worse on a hot day. It's not always. Even when it's overcast, the sun can still damage your children's skin. Clouds don't completely block off the UV rays. And if it's windy and your kids get a red face, it's likely to be sunburn. The Council says there is no such thing as windburn. The solution?
You've got to reapply the sunblock every 2 hours. It washes off.
A hard lesson for Lucas, but an important one.
I don't want other people or children to go through what I've been through.
Jordan Cutts, 7 News.
Well, the weather has turned. Estelle Griepink's here. Estelle, what's going on up there?
Well, Blake, we've had a cool change sweep through, meaning we've felt a sudden drop in temperature this afternoon. And that meant the city was at 33 at 12:15 p.m. and just 23 5 minutes later. Across the suburbs, maximum temperatures were in the 30s, with Moorabbin reaching 36. But as the change moved through, things got much cooler very quickly. It's still going to be a warm night, though, and will remain in the high teens overnight. I'll have the full forecast after sport, Blake.
Estelle, thanks. See you soon. There's a new push to get more women on our work sites. Up next, the plan to break down barriers in Victoria's construction industry. Also, what the shutdown of Central Pier is really costing Docklands businesses. Fatal consequences, how a police officer used her gun instead of a taser, and the surprise find in Australia's copy of one of the world's most significant documents. A 3-car pile-up in Doncaster has left 3 people in hospital. A 4th person escaped injury in the crash at the intersection of Manningham and Thompson's Roads just before midnight. One of those hurt, a 19-year-old man from Thornbury, is expected to face a police grilling and possible traffic charges. The other 2 were taken to hospital for observation. There's mounting pressure on the state government to fast-track the redevelopment of Central Pier in Docklands. A new report claims its closure is crippling the precinct at a cost of $900 million.
More than 2.5 years after hundreds of people were forced to evacuate Central Pier over concerns it could collapse, it's still standing and is still closed.
We have found that the closure of Central Pier will cost the Melbourne economy close to $900 million over the next 5 years.
Those figures are extraordinary, but they're real.
A City of Melbourne report shows rebuilding the pier could offer a $251 million economic boost every year and provide more than 2,000 jobs.
It brings people from interstate and overseas that then flow on to the local restaurants and accommodation.
The Docklands Chamber of Commerce estimates it attracted around 1.5 million people a year.
So this was the beating heart of Docklands.
And crushing nearby businesses.
We hurt a lot in 2019 and then, of course, we went into the pandemic, we heard even more.
A permit request to demolish the pier still hasn't been submitted to Heritage Victoria.
I think this is probably a decade in the making. I think it's going to be years to remediate or to pull down, and then it's going to be many more years in order to build it back.
We need to get on with it. We need to crack on and get the job done.
The state government says plans for the pier's demolition and redevelopment are underway, allocating $3 million in the latest budget.
In the meantime, we want to see the site reactivated with a temporary facility so that we can start bringing back those thousands of jobs and seeing the millions of people coming back to Docklands.
Hope Wilson, 7 News.
There's a new push to break down stereotypes on Victorian construction sites. The program has some high-profile backers, including building giant Lend-Lease and the Richmond Footy Club.
Australia's construction industry employs over 1.1 million people. But it's still dominated by men, women making up fewer than 3%. Now the Tigers are joining building giant Lend-Lease, leading the push for a more diverse workforce.
That aims to increase diversity and disrupt the stereotypes that exist in our industry.
The aim to recruit more women, more people from different cultures and more people of all abilities.
Give them an opportunity to walk into industry and feel like they're a part of society, which they've got a right to, because they are human beings and they deserve an equal opportunity.
Richmond AFLW player Poppy Kelly, one of the first to grab the opportunity.
It's a great experience to really soak up, the knowledge around me and following some of the engineers around and getting out on site a bit this week and, just really soaking up and learning lots.
Poppy's 12-week program giving her first-hand experience working with engineers on one of the city's biggest building sites.
Can be a bit intimidating out on the site.
Changes to Victorian laws mean from next year a quota of at least 4% of labour hours for apprentices and trainees must be performed by women.
More women is always a good thing in any industry, I think.
Matt Thompson, 7 News.
A former police officer has broken down and sobbed in court, describing the moment she shot dead a man after mistaking her gun for her taser.
Remember yelling, "Taser, taser, taser," and nothing happened. And then he told me I shot him.
Kim Potter is charged with killing the 20-year-old Dante Wright during the routine traffic stop. Experts at Canberra's Parliament House have just completed restoring one of history's most significant documents. Australia's copy of the Magna Carta has been removed from its display for the first time in 60 years, and what they've found has surprised everyone.
Deep within the vaults of Parliament House, in a special black box, lies an 800-year-old document that's just been restored. The Magna Carta.
It is definitely the most important document in the Parliament House.
Forged in 1297 by King Edward I, it's the very document that established democracy, political freedom and individual rights.
You can't put really a price tag on such significant document.
It was sent to Australia in 1952 and it's been on display in Parliament House for years, but experts decided it's time to take a proper look.
We wanted to make sure that we can preserve it for future generations.
A specialist team from the University of Melbourne removed the parchment from its casing. They discovered it's printed on sheepskin. There's some water stains and holes.
It's degraded the parchment.
The tassel is fine silk, the Great Seal, beeswax and resin.
And there was a fine crack
at the bottom of the seal. So we put the tiniest amount of adhesive along that line, and that is literally all the new material that we've introduced to the Magna Carta.
And now the back of the Magna Carta has been revealed. New Latin abbreviations discovered and translated.
We didn't have to do much conservation at all, and we're very, very relieved about that.
The next step is building a new case to display it. Using state-of-the-art technology and materials, conservators are confident that it'll be preserved for many years to come.
The living reminder of Australia's British heritage will return to public viewing next year. Jennifer Beshwati, 7 News.
There's new help tonight for more than 100,000 Australians living with failing hearts. That's next on 7 News. Also, the Alfred lights up to thank our frontline workers. How to get paid to cuddle other people's pets. And is that Santa on the Yarra? Melbourne counts down to Christmas. The Alfred Hospital has been lit up in a show of support for staff and patients after another year plagued by COVID pressure. Coinciding with the hospital's 150th anniversary, messages of hope and festive spirit were projected across the building. The Alfred is Victoria's largest trauma hospital and currently has the largest ICU. There's new hope for Australians living with heart problems. A groundbreaking medication that can extend and improve quality of life is about to become much more affordable.
More than 100,000 Australians live with heart failure, including 61-year-old Ken Underwood, diagnosed 6 years ago.
Quite severe shortness of breath and dizziness, and I felt as though my whole body was shutting down.
Ken's heart struggles to pump blood. He's had a pacemaker inserted and spends thousands on medication per year, including more than $600 on miracle drug Forxiga.
I started taking it about 6 months ago, but this drug has enabled my heartbeat to stay very stable.
One person is hospitalised with heart failure every 8 minutes around the country, and 8 patients die every day. But this medication stops the heart from becoming weaker.
Makes people feel better and reduces the need for hospitalisation.
The federal government is putting the drug on the PBS, slashing the price to $42.50 per script, or just under $7 with a concession card.
Patients are often concerned about the cost of their medications. Now it's available through the PBS, we'll be able to use it much more widely.
It means that patients will feel better, live longer, and essentially go back to the things that they really enjoy doing.
Helping tens of thousands more patients just like Ken.
It would be extremely difficult for me to afford this without it being listed on the PBS.
Rachel Ward, 7 News.
There are hundreds of jobs available right now for anyone who loves cats and dogs. Pet sitting businesses are embarking on a nationwide hiring spree as Aussies book in their four-legged friends over the summer break.
This job may sound too good to be true. Cash for cuddles, and there's no catch. Online pet sitting company Mad Paws is on a national hunt for cuddle officers ahead of a busy travel period post-lockdown.
Well, obviously a love of animals is imperative, but beyond that we're also looking for people who have a history caring for pets. But beyond that, you don't actually need a set skill set. We're more interested in people who are reliable and trustworthy and willing to give those pets as many cuddles as they need.
Pet sitters can earn an average of $1,600 a month and are able to choose their own hours.
Because of that flexibility, it meant that if I had lectures, I could sort of work around that. And then when I moved into my full-time role, it meant I could still keep making a bit of extra money on the side.
The income is a bonus for sure. I think you have to have a genuine love for animals and pets.
Nearly 2 million Australians got a pet during the pandemic. That's the biggest boom in pet ownership on record.
A lot of people who've maybe been wanting to get pets for a long time, just having that opportunity, having so much more time to welcome a puppy or adopt a dog into their household, knowing that they'd be safe and cared for because people were home so much more.
But for those people who don't have a furry friend,
it kind of fills that dog-shaped hole in your heart, I guess.
Georgia Bennett-Murphy, 7 News.
And just 7 sleeps until Christmas. Today, Santa took time out from the North Pole to go for a cruise down the Yarra. And a wannabe Santa also grabbed a wetsuit and hit the artificial waves at Urban Surf. sport now with Laura Spurway. Laura, the Aussies are well on top in Adelaide.
They are, Blake. After being wicketless in the first session, they've claimed 2 big scalps, none bigger than the English skipper Joe Root, leaving the tourists reeling. All the highlights coming up. A bombshell at the Bulldogs. Bailey Smith takes personal leave. All eyes on Tiger Woods for his return, but son Charlie steals the show. And gold for a Victorian skier tuning up for the Winter Olympics. Welcome back. For the second consecutive innings, Aussie all-rounder Cameron Green has claimed the scalp of English captain Joe Root. After digging in for the first session, England lost 2 quick wickets and are still trailing by more than 300 runs.
Prize scalps as day 2 moved into night.
Big shout!
Steve Smith, 93, eyeing a half-century. 51 for Alex Carey in his first home test. The new boy wagged the tail.
And it's gone all the way.
Michael Neser belting 35 on debut. Mitch Stark's 39 had those on field earning their danger money. Jai Richardson peppering those who paid to get in.
That's massive! Miles back!
The hosts happy with 473. A frustrated Ben Stokes, also a father of 2. Well aware of that tragedy in Tasmania that claimed the lives of 5 children.
I think as well, obviously, the reason why, the Australians are wearing the black armband today puts a lot of things into perspective.
A bad moon rising for England's batsmen. Stark's love affair with the pink ball continued as the new boys' night got better.
Oh, he's got him! Michael Neser!
Lightning leaving the tourists thunderstruck at 2 for 17.
Stop the runs in the daytime and then strike at night.
England defied that on day 3.
Runs to Root, 4 of them.
David Milan and his captain replying to Australia's 473 at 4 and over. The pair happy to dance to chin music.
And Milan did pretty well, did the limbo rock.
Root showed why he's rated the world's best batter, the partnership passing 100. But still no century in Australia, undone for 62.
Edge and gone! Green has done it again.
Like he did at the Gabba, Green got rid of England's captain, Stark undoing Milan for 80.
Edge and taken!
Marnus's mantra of strike at night arriving early. Andrew McKinlay, 7 News.
Bulldog star Bailey Smith has been granted personal leave by the club. He's rarely been sighted on the track since the resumption of training, but is expected to return in the new year.
Bailey Smith is one of football's most famous players, and the star's bravely spoken about his mental health challenges before.
Probably need to, address it a bit more. I think it's just something that's healthy to talk about and understand that not everyone copes as well as they'd like, and it's okay to put your hand up and say you're struggling at times.
Facing personal and private matters, Bulldogs bosses have given Smith permission to train away from the club. Sources expect the young Colt hero will return after the break on January 8. Smith could even be back at the kennel in an informal capacity this week.
I'm scared of being judged, and it's just something I've got to do with me.
And 7 News' cameras have captured the Saints' final training for the year. After a gruelling 15-kilometre session yesterday, they had some fun this morning in a swim event at Brighton Baths. With the obligatory nautical theme, they carried their own battle ropes wearing quirky caps. It was all about teamwork, Dan Hannabury getting into it and keeping their hats on during the relay swim. Tom Brown, 7 News.
Looks fun. Tiger Woods has returned to the fairways just 10 months after his near-fatal car crash. He played alongside his 12-year-old son Charlie, who Tiger concedes might be better than him.
Not your average Pro-Am.
Tiger Woods.
But in February, we feared Tiger would never walk again, never mind golf.
There are no days off. We worked every day.
First goal, playing with Charlie in the father-son PNC Championship again.
Take a look at this.
Nearly jars it. Like they've cloned the greatest ever and made improvements. They're already Charlie-proofing courses, and he's 12.
They moved his tee markers back, so we don't quite have the same advantages that we had last year. I didn't have speed like that at that age.
Tiger admits playing on tour is a long way off. What about Charlie?
My job is to be a parent and make sure that his priorities are right and school comes first.
The mullet's flourishing and he surged to number 20 in the world, but COVID's ensured Cameron Smith, who's won 2 of the last 3 Australian PGA titles, won't be home anytime soon.
It's been too long, so I'm itching to get back as soon as I can and, hopefully play some golf over there as well.
He's desperate to return as a major winner. Matt Carmichael, 7 News.
Western United is riding a wave of momentum on a rare 4-game winning streak. It's a new club record after downing Adelaide 1-0.
Payne! Connor Payne for Western United. Goals in back-to-back A-League men's matches.
It shoots John Aloisi's men temporarily to the top of the ladder, setting up a blockbuster clash with Melbourne victory on Boxing Day. 48 days till the Winter Olympics. Barwon Heads local Jakara Anthony keeps showing she's a serious gold medal chance, dominating this morning's World Cup round in France, adding gold to the silver and bronze medals that she won last weekend.
The course was pretty solid and it just got nicer and nicer throughout the day as it softened up and allowed everyone to just run it and send it really hard.
It's Jakara's second World Cup gold and extends her overall lead. The Brooklyn Nets have caved and allowed Kyrie Irving back onto the court. The NBA star has been vocal for his anti-vax stance, but will now return as a part-time player, only available for games on the road. The current New York City mandate doesn't allow unvaccinated athletes to play. And Blake, the AFL has announced Hawthorn will play Richmond in a pre-season game on March the 5th in Devonport as a tribute following this week's tragedy.
A nice touch, Laura. Thank you for that. Estelle is next with the forecast. Estelle, have we any more warm weather coming up?
Well, Blake, we have showers on the horizon, but they should clear just in time for Christmas. I'll have the details next.
Know the headlines as they break. Know the stories as they happen. With 7news.com.au, know the news now.
Hello again. We've had up and down weather all day today and tomorrow will be even more unsettled. In the city today, from a low of 19, we reached a top of 33. But that high didn't last long, with the temperature dropping by 10 degrees in just 5 minutes this afternoon. That sudden change in temperature was also felt on our suburbs. In less than an hour, Essendon dropped from 34 to 22 and Scoresby dropped from 32 to 24. This is what it looked like in Rowville today, where it almost reached 34. Taking a look at the satellite, and a trough of low pressure will deepen tomorrow ahead of a cold front. That front will cross over us on Sunday and we could see some showers and storms. And tonight we have a number of warnings in place. There's the risk of severe thunderstorms for these areas in yellow tonight, with potential damaging winds and large hailstones. And then tomorrow on the other side of the state, we have severe fire danger forecast. That strong front is expected to bring damaging winds and the risk of dry lightning. If you're in the west, expect a westerly change early in the afternoon tomorrow. And if you're in the east, expect it to pass by in the evening. In the suburbs, we could see showers in the morning and afternoon and a potential thunderstorm. In the city, we could see up to 15 millimetres of rain along with gusty winds. There's a 90% chance it will rain, so bring an umbrella if you're heading outdoors. To the 7-day outlook, and we'll start the working week with lots of sunshine and a top of 26. And those conditions pretty much repeat on Tuesday, another dry and mostly sunny day. On Wednesday, we'll see cloud return for a top of 21. We stay that way on Thursday too, partly cloudy and much cooler than today. But come Friday, the mercury climbs once more just in time for Christmas, 26 on Christmas Eve and 26 on Christmas Day. Perfect weather for getting together with the family. But tomorrow we'll have a much cooler day than today. Prepare for showers and a possible storm. From a low of 14, we'll reach 22. So perfect weather for Christmas, Blake.
Not a dull day on the weather forecast, Estelle. Thank you. And that is 7 News. Thanks for making us part of your Saturday. Stay with us now as we take you back to the Ashes at the Adelaide Oval. From the news team, good night.